there's a photograph here that came out of your book, not this
my
one,
mother
the previous one.
in the back there.
Yeah, but this is the caption on it is the Marx Brothers, Harpo, me, and Chico, valiantly attempting to amuse Irving Thalberg. Now he was the great
Look
producer.
at the other side.
Now. This leads into a question. There are a lot of legends about you, and a lot of the remarks that you've made, whether they're true or not true. And one of the stories that came to me a long, long time ago is the first time you got to Hollywood. You had a date with a very important producer. I think the head of the studio. It may have been
change it to a girl. Huh?
No, it may have been Thalberg. And you had they let you into his private office. He wasn't there. And by the time he came in, they were the four of you completely stark naked. Now, is that a legend or is that true?
No, it was true.
Well, tell me that story. That's ridiculous.
Well, you know, Thalberg, like Sinatra, was
this was Thalberg.
This was Thalberg, yes. He was the most feared man of any producer in any major studio. And he wasn't feared because he wasn't a nice guy, but he was so powerful because he was so talented. And he was so great at his own business. He was a legend, this man. He died at 37, you know. Everybody was afraid of him. Now, after we had done 5 pictures at Paramount, and we'd done a couple at RKO, I think, and then Chico used to play bridge every night with Thalberg, because Chico was a great bridge player, and Thalberg was crazy about Chico. But the first time, we eventually signed up, after Duck Soup, we signed up with Thalberg. Now, he says, come to the office tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, and we'll have an initial talk about what we're going to do. So we got there at 11. Now, at that time, he was doing 3 pictures, and he had, very important, he had Bob Sherwood working on something in one room. He had Mark Connolly and somebody else working in another room, and we were going into his private office, which, that picture there. He had a huge fireplace there. It was a very imposing-looking place for fellows who had been in vaudeville all their life. And we got there at 11 o'clock, then 11:30 came, 12 o'clock. We're in the outer office. Now, he's running from these 3 different rooms, conferring with Bob Sherwood and the other people who were working for him. I don't recall their names. And we were sitting there. It was 1 o'clock. We went out to lunch. We come back at 2. We sat in the outer office. We sat there till 3. 4. At 5 o'clock, he sent out word that we could go home and come back the next day at 11 o'clock. Now, we hadn't seen him. Next day, we arrived at 11 o'clock. And around 2 that afternoon, we were ushered into his place. And me, I'm always big-mouthed, you know. I said, look, Mr. Thalberg, I said, we start on Broadway in 3 plays. And we're considered very good comedians. And we've done 5 pictures at Paramount. And if you ask us to come here at midnight for a story conference, we'll be here at midnight. But when you ask us at 11 o'clock in the morning, we want you to see us at 11 o'clock in the morning, or otherwise there's no deal with you at all. And nobody had ever spoken to him that way. Even Mayer was afraid of him. So he never kept us waiting after that. We had a meeting at 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever it was. But now we would get in his office at 11 o'clock, and he would start a preliminary conversation about a story, picture. And then at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, he'd say, look, I have to go over and talk to Bob Sherwood for a few minutes. I'll be back. He did this 2 or 3 times, and he didn't come back till around 2 o'clock. Now we were, instead of waiting outside, we were waiting in his office. So around the 4th time he did this, when he went out to see Sherwood or somebody, we took all those files, those steel files in the office, you know, where they keep the records and everything, and we stacked them up against the 2 doors, 2 different entrances, and he couldn't get in. And we didn't leave him in until 5 o'clock. So he laughed at that because now he had respect for us. So the next time we had a meeting with him, again we started to talk about, I think it was Night at the Opera, the first picture, and he left again to see, I don't know, Mark Connolly or somebody else. And when he went out, we lit a fire in the fireplace, a huge fireplace, and we sent to the commissary, and we got 8 baked potatoes. And we lit the fire. We had a roaring fire going. We took off all our clothes. And when he came back, we were sitting in front of the fireplace, toasting these baked potatoes. And after that, he loved us because nobody ever cracked a joke around him. Everybody was so afraid of him. And we were playing the Katzenjammer kids for him. And it turned out very effective.